Did we get stuck again?
Just mowing the lawn, nothing to see.
This is grass and not rock.
Yeah.
Last time aboard Freedom, we untied our lines and headed northbound in Puget Sound to anchor in a new and very exciting destination for us. Since it's only enjoyable under certain weather conditions, we decided to hunker down in Killisset Harbor near Port Townsend for the night, before making the remaining 21 nautical mile journey the next day, when the wind forecast was most ideal. Luckily for us, the next morning was perfect with clear skies and calm seas.
All right. Just plotting our course. It's a little bit tricky getting in and out of this harbor. There's a kind of this, I don't know, it looks like a question mark. It's a winding kind of S-curve that you have to do, that you have to follow, because there's a lot of really shallow shoals in the entrance. Today we looked at the tides, and the tides are actually supposed to go negative, a little over negative 3 feet. And there's some areas here where it's pretty shallow to begin with, so we're kind of in a little bit of a rush to get out of here, so that we have enough water depth that we don't have to be too concerned on our way out. So I'm just plotting our course right now. But you can see in the center there's a lot of areas where it's only 1, 3, 4 feet deep. You know, we draw 5.5 feet. The center channel it is pretty good. I think for the most part it's at least 10 feet deep. But don't want to transit through there in a -3 tide.
Yeah. Tides are crazy this week.
Because the chart will be, that's plotted at low water, so a minus tide means that the depth is going to be even lower than what's charted. Plus, since the entrance to this whole harbor is a little bit open, I'm sure a lot of these shoals tend to shift around a bit with some of the currents and the winds. So we are going to play it safe and get out of here while the water's about +5 right now.
With our anchor pulled up and washed down, we were ready to make our way towards Point Hudson, just around the corner from Port Townsend. On our way there, we spotted the American Constellation, currently the only cruise ship operating in Puget Sound and soon to be headed to Alaska for the summer. Just an FYI if you're in the market for a summer cruise.
Vessel hailing Freedom. Switch and answer on channel 68.
Container ship Mountain Anchorage. Can you answer on channel 13?
Yeah, Roger, 13.
Freedom? Motor vessel Freedom, Mountain Anchorage 13.
Mountain Anchorage, this is Freedom.
Hi Freedom, I see you coming out of Port Townsend there. I'm about to enter the southbound lanes here at Sierra Alpha. I just want to make sure I knew where you were headed.
Yeah, Roger, we're headed out to the Strait, but I will stay to the west of the lanes and give you plenty of room.
Okay, I appreciate that. You have a good morning. Mountain Anchorage.
Freedom, switching back and monitoring channel 16.
So that was a container ship calling us to make an arrangement because they weren't sure what we were doing. And that's pretty impressive since the ferries around here just cut you off. And if you saw our video a few weeks ago when a ferry totally cut us off, the ferries do not have right of way. They're a power-driven vessel. We all follow the same rules of the road. And regardless of how big that vessel is, if they're a ferry versus us, they still should have yielded to us or called us on the radio like this nice cargo ship. So thank you, cargo vessels. And maybe someday the Washington State ferries will take note and do the same if they're not going to follow the rules of the road. I don't like rules either, but you have to follow them, right? Nobody likes rules. No. When you're in a boat, you should follow them. Is that right, buddy? I know. That's right. So we are officially in the Strait of Juan de Fuca. We've got 6 knots of wind coming from the west onto our bow. It's not bad at all. There's pretty much nothing to speak of, which is good. If it could stay like this the entire trip, that's a huge win for the Strait. And yeah, it's just gonna keep clearing up, and the haze / fog over the water will burn off, and should be a good afternoon.
The closer we got to what's referred to as the rain shadow of the Pacific Northwest, the more perfect the day became. And in a couple of hours, we had arrived in Dungeness Bay, our anchorage for the night. This bay is home to the new Dungeness lighthouse, an abundance of Dungeness crab, and the longest natural sand spit in the United States.
So are we anchoring straight ahead?
Yeah, we'll scope it out when we get there. There's a cable area where I think the cable goes from the lighthouse to shore. So we can't anchor in that area, that's restricted. So we either need to be on this side of it or on the west side of it. We'll shoot for the west side as long as it looks like there's enough room there. But we'll make that call once we get closer.
All right, I think Sean's gonna drop the dinghy, and that'll be step 1, so we can go and head back. It's super narrow to go back into the wildlife reserve back there. Ooh, flying the camera. Definitely way too shallow for freedom, but as long as the weather stays this good, we'll be perfect here, and then we can take the dinghy and go exploring. I mean, seriously, it doesn't get any nicer than this. This beautiful scenery, perfectly flat water. A historic spit right there. And just all this blue, the blue sky, and then a lighthouse, Mount Baker. Sean, wouldn't you say this is pretty fantabulous? Sean, Earth to Sean.
Bueller.
Uh-oh. I see a fix-it bag.
Gotta do a quick repair.
You're doing a repair?
Yeah.
Oh, for the love of... Oh, what do you have to repair? The repairs are never ending. What are you repairing?
Well, ever since we had this dinghy, this steering arm is missing a seal on the end of it, so I have to continually re-grease it, otherwise it seizes up. So I finally got, I bought the little seal I need to put on. So I'm gonna clean up the rod, put the seal, re-grease it, put the seal on, and then it should say cleaner back here too. There should not be all this grease all over the place.
So you're saying it's pretty true that owning a boat is doing boat work in exotic places?
Oh yeah. Always projects.
Every place we've been lately, we have been doing boat work. Yeah, you know, it might get old to you guys when you're just like, do you ever stop with the boat projects? And you just have to think about it like your whole house is just moving and shaking all the time. So imagine if your home was in an earthquake twice a week or almost every day. You'd probably be fixing things all the time too. So if I ever start to get sick of it, I think of that this would just be any house that moves. And if you want a house that moves, you're gonna do projects all the time. Moving and shaking.
After a quick lube, we launched the dinghy to go explore and enjoy this oddly impeccable day. From the moment we pulled into the bay, we could tell that there were several families of bald eagles on the shores of the Spit, so that was our first stop. We wanted to keep a safe distance while also avoiding the shallow seagrass, but thanks to zoom lenses, we were able to admire and appreciate the magnificence of these birds. With an average body length of 36 inches, wingspans up to 8 feet, and an average weight of 12 pounds, these iconic birds are quite impressive to see in the wild. Once being on the brink of local extinction here in the United States, I'm happy to share that the bald eagle population has recovered and was removed from the list of endangered and threatened wildlife in the contiguous states in 2007.
Sully on a tight leash. Yeah, they're coming after you, buddy. Wanna go in there? On the left?
Those big birds.
I think so. Do you have the water depth? It's like
Didn't get a minus tide. In theory, you could probably anchor back here.
that'd be cool.
A little sketch. Send the dinghy in first and scope it out.
Yeah,
Sonar.
pretty awesome anchorage if you could get it.
Be very protected.
Welcome to Dungeness Spit, the longest natural sand spit in the U.S., jutting out over 5 miles from the northern tip of the Olympic Peninsula into the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Growing at over 15 feet each year, this spit encloses Dungeness Bay, which is both the shallow waters where we're cruising through right now, as well as where freedom is anchored for the night. This low sandy point of land, named after its twin in the British Channel by British explorer George Vancouver, has a land area of approximately 315 acres and is located entirely within the Dungeness National Wildlife Refuge. Some of the signs we saw led us to believe that the entire area was closed to protect wildlife, But much of the Spit is, in fact, open year-round so that ambitious hikers can attempt to make it all the way to the lighthouse and back. And for all of the shellfish lovers out there, Dungeness crabs got their name from this bay because of their abundance in these waters.
Do you hear that? Exactly. There's like nothing. It's so quiet. So peaceful, just some birds every once in a while. A couple drips of water. That's about it. I like it. Did we get stuck again? Oops. Oh yeah. Beware of the weeds. A little crazy, there'll be nothing and then all of a sudden, boom, you're just in a field of seagrass. So, note to self, go slow. How you doing, Sully? Sully Mander, you're being a good boy. Well, DC we did?
I think so. We now resume our regularly scheduled program.
Our regularly scheduled cruising. Check. Oh boy. Sure we're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Off we go. Back to freedom. She's so close, yet so far. Grill time?
Grill time. Yeah, let's go check out the grill. Come on.
Okay, I think I just heard the dinner bell. Enough of this gazing out and in awe of this flat water. It's just crazy town. Crazy.
I can't let you go, baby. I gotta tell you that
Nothing makes you appreciate a nice day more than a warm home-cooked meal at anchor on a day so perfect you could cry, followed by a sunset so beautiful you could cry some more, and then topped off with a sunrise the next day so striking you could, you guessed it, have another cry.
I can't let you go, baby. I can't let you go, baby.
Thanks for joining us in Dungeness Bay, a truly magical destination, especially on a nice day. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, heck, maybe even with your next Uber driver. Subscribe to our channel and smack that bell so you'll never miss an adventure. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, it's time for another weekly Q&A with the captain. This week we have 3 questions teed up for you, so let's go ahead and get started. Our first question this week comes from Dennis, and Dennis lives in Northern Virginia. I understand taxes and fees can vary wildly depending on which state municipality the boat is registered in. Can you share your experience and knowledge on the subject? You are correct. It does vary depending on which state you're in, so I can share our experience both in Wisconsin as well as Washington. When we lived in Wisconsin, when you buy a new boat, you are subject to sales tax. Sales tax is 5.6%. In Wisconsin, and then you register a boat. I believe it's every 3 years, and the registration fee is minimal. It's maybe between $80 and $100, but that's our experience with Wisconsin. Now in Washington, same thing. You are subject to sales tax when you purchase a boat if you're planning to keep it in Washington, and that sales tax here is 10.1%. So it's a pretty hefty tax, but the other way that Washington gets you is you need to register your boat every year, and you also pay an excise tax every year on your boat, and that's based on the valuation of your boat. You're charged 0.5% of the value of your boat, and I think they have a depreciation schedule where they depreciate that down. If you're bringing a boat from another state into Washington, you do need to check carefully because you may be subject to pay the difference between the tax you paid in the state that you purchased it in and the 10.1% sales tax that we have in Washington. So they definitely get you, and I think if you're bringing a boat into Washington from another area, you're allowed up to 60 days in a calendar year before you are required to register it locally. Our second question this week comes from Mike. As you start to plan future routes and cruising options, is there region-specific gear and equipment that you'll need to start adding to Freedom before going further north or further south? So Freedom is actually set up pretty good for either warmer or cooler climates. If we were to spend considerable amount of time in a colder climate such as Alaska, diesel heat would be a nice option to have on the boat, so we don't need to run our generator all the time while at anchor to create heat for the boat. But when we are plugged in, when we are running our generator, the boat does have a perfectly adequate heating system. Likewise, when we head south, our boat is already set up for warm weather climates. We have air conditioning on our boat, so it'll be set up that way. So really the only gear that we need, depending on which area that we're going to be traveling to, is gear that we want to have fun. So whether it's warm or cold weather clothing, as well as some toys on the boat. So we do want to do more scuba diving when we get into warmer climates. We did just purchase a Mantis scuba compressor so that we can fill dive tanks on the boat, so we'll show that in an upcoming video. And then another thing that we'd like to do when we head south is swap out our kayaks for stand-up paddle boards. We feel that those will be a little bit more conducive for the warm weather climates. And then our last question this week comes from Ian. Ian lives in Roche Harbor, Washington. Have you ever considered a prop shaft line cutter? Given your bad experiences with crab pot, it seems on paper like a good idea. And yes, we have. We're not going to do the spur style line cutter where you have a fixed blade that kind of comes off of the shaft strut, and then you have another cutting blade that's on the shaft. We're going to get a shaft shark, which is just a component. It's a 2-piece component that you clamp around your prop shaft, and that way if you were to entangle a line, hopefully that would cut and break it free. So either next haul out, or I may potentially do it during one of my next dives. We plan to add that equipment onto our shafts. So as always, thank you for all the really great questions. If we haven't gotten one of your questions, don't worry, we'll get it answered on a future video. And if you want one of your questions answered, look us up on Instagram and drop us a direct line with your name, your location, and your question, and we'll be sure to get it added to the list. We hope everybody has a fantabulous week, and we will see you on the next video. Take it easy, guys. See. Cheers.